Well, shalom, folks. Shabbat shalom. Good to see you. I did it again. Let's turn in our prayer book to page 134. Page 134. And remember, if you have a prayer book that has 2 page numbers, you're following the page number in blue brackets. That's where you're going to follow. If you only have 1 page number as an option, just go with the flow. Otherwise, blue brackets. 134. And join along.
Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol zimra. 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 Zamru l'Adonai b'chinor, b'chinor v'kol בכל זמרה.
Let's turn back 120. Page 120, we're going to invite a couple of friends to come and join us and light our Shabbat candles and bring more light into our sanctuary. So Sherry and Don, if you folks will come forward.
Okay. We get three. Well, we get two. The third one, we're out. We got to get somebody else. Okay.
There we go. Come on, candle. Where's your light?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen.
We invite you, friends, to please rise as you are able. Kiddush is on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom techila lemikrai kodesh zecher litziat Mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo
Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim. We can return to our seats. I'm going to invite you, before we continue, to turn to a neighbor and wish a Shabbat Shalom. You can introduce yourselves. You can share your name. If you're not ready to shake hands, that's okay. Wonderful. Yes. Wonderful. Let's continue with Lecha Dodi, the prayer of our mystics, page 138 and 139. We continue with the first 5 stanzas. After the 5th one, we jump to the very last one. When we reach the 9th one, our custom here is to rise, face the open doors in the back of our sanctuary, symbolically welcoming the Sabbath bride into our midst. 142.
Shalom Aleichem,
Malachei
Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nim Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitzchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu. Continue on 146, and we'll rise together for this section of the service.
Baruch Hu et Adonai,
Mevorach, Mevorach, Leolam Vaed. Mevorach, Mevorach, Leolam Vaed. On 149, let's read together. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Shema Yisrael on 152. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Let's be seated. 154.
V'ahavta
et Adonai Elohecha בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. On 159, join with me. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Going back a page, 158.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, ונאמר כי ודע אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
Amen. Let's turn the page. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, asking God to spread this shelter of peace over all of us, helping us to feel comforted and seen and strong and embraced. 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו ביצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ותקננו ביצה טובה מלפניך, והושיענו למען שמך.
We turn forward 164. Take a breath and move into the tefillah together. We ask you to rise as you are able.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei HaKol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, u'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומ ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Let's be seated. On 175, let's read together at the bottom of the page. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers, and there may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shotcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. A prayer for peace on 178.
Shalom Rav.
HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav HaYisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום.
שלום רב.
שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך.
שלום רב.
שלום רב ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Let's take some time for our own personal prayers, our own reflections. If you would like to follow a reading to reflect upon, you can look at 179 through 181. Choose a reading, or just take some time for your own personal prayer.
and I know this one is still a little new.
Page 180.
Leratzon
imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali Adonai tzuri vegoali.
May the words
of my mouth
and the meditations
of my heart
together
be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Yehu leratzon imrefi vehegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri vegoali Adonai tzuri vegoali. Let's turn to 371 in the middle of the page, our prayer for healing, our prayer for wholeness. We think of friends whom we've encountered and family that are close to us, and we send a little strength and healing their way. If we picked up one of our handouts, you'll see names again, and if you would like to share the name out loud, we invite you to do so. Just lift them all up. We will join you in this prayer for healing and strength and wholeness. 371 in the middle of the page.
And let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So I want to share a story with you. It was a warm summer afternoon in mid-July at the Jersey Shore. This isn't my story, but the one who shares it writes, "My 4-year-old son and I just love venturing off to the beach just before dinner. With bucket in hand, we'd hit the sand and start our adventure. Will, her child, would run so quickly to the edge of the water and be soaked before I even got there, laughing as the waves crashed and nearly knocked him down. I remember the days not so long ago when a trip to the beach was just unbearable for my little boy. His sensitivities to sights and sounds and touches would prevent us from enjoying everyday activities, such as a walk at the shore. My son Will was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and despite the fact that he's high functioning, has spent many hours in therapy helping him to overcome the many challenges he faces. The beach is now one of his favorite places to visit. Presently, we're able to walk along the edge of the water almost daily in the summer months, looking for seashells to fill our bucket. Some days the bucket is full, and other days just a few shells make it into the bucket. But on this particular day, there didn't seem to be too many shells washed up on the shore. Will began picking up whatever shells he saw lying in the sand. And after a while, I peered into the bucket and saw nothing but broken shells. Will, I said, all of these shells are broken and no good. You need to find shells like this. As the mom lifts up a perfectly shaped clamshell. Will gave me a puzzled look and continued on his way, gathering whatever shells he came upon and dropping them into the bucket. I continued my search for some and then stopped to watch him drop more broken shells in the bucket. And again I stopped, but this time I asked in a more stern voice, Will, why do you insist on filling our bucket with shells that are broken? And he looked up at me and he replied, Mom, there are way more shells on the beach that are broken than perfect ones that you are searching for. We'll get the bucket filled faster with the broken ones. True, I thought, but who wants a bucket full of broken shells? Will stared at me as if he knew what I was thinking. And Will said, Mom, these shells are broken, but they're still beautiful. Just then, he reached his little hand into the bucket and began pulling out different shells and commenting on their uniqueness. This one is broken, but look, it has the color purple on it. Mom, none of yours have the color purple on it? You're right, Will, she said. And Mom, look at this one. It looks like a smile when you hold it just this way, he said. It reminds me of a clown, and this one is round like the sun, and these ones are stuck together like butterfly wings. She writes, my eyes were filled with tears as I realized my son was teaching me a most valuable lesson. I reached my hand into the bucket and began to take out the few perfect shells I had collected and placed them back on the beach. And Will and I walked along the beach collecting only the broken shells in our bucket and admiring their beauty. When we arrived back at our beach home, we rinsed off the bucket of shells and proudly displayed our broken shell garden next to our patio. It's a constant reminder of how none of us are perfect. We are all broken in some way, but we still possess beauty and uniqueness beyond belief. Now, whenever we go to the beach, we gather only broken shells. And yes, it's true, while the perfect shells are few and far between, there are many more broken shells left lying on the beach that go unnoticed. If we take the time to look more closely at the broken shells, we can find beauty in their imperfections and maybe even learn a little something about ourselves. I'm watching Ted Lasso this week. And there is this part of the story. Do we know who Ted Lasso is? It's one of these streaming TV shows. And when I first started watching it, I was like, not for me. Too silly. And everybody was like, no, you have to keep on going. And over the course of time, we see that this soccer coach, an American coach, who knows nothing about soccer, goes and coaches a soccer team, football team in Britain, and transforms this team through his kindness and his acceptance. And over the course of time, it raises issues around anxiety and his panic attacks and suicide loss. It involves issues around parents that aren't as present the way we need them to be. It has all of these different issues that are so perfect to discuss for us, but they're on TV. And little did I know that rabbis and pastors all around the country are using Ted Lasso, and I'm only kind of new to this game. But I'm watching the most recent one, and I see on this show that there's a character that deeply hurts an entire team. And there's a moment when the team is willing to have this guy who betrays them come back to work and be their coach. Even the assistant coach, Coach Beard, even the assistant coach who's super angry at this man who really did an act of betrayal, goes over to him, kisses him on the kepi, on the head, and talks about how Ted Lasso, the coach, didn't stop believing in him even after all of the things that he's done wrong. And I'm thinking all about this this heaviness in our society about perfection, about how we have to get it right every time. And if not, either we become less, we're hard on ourselves, or other people are hard on us. Perhaps from an innocent missing the mark. And it pains me to see. It pains me to be a part of it. It pains me to be the one that might do it. It pains me when I'm certainly the recipient of it. And Ted Lasso, in this really remarkable moment, there's a line where he says, "I hope that either all of us or none of us are judged by the actions of our weakest moments, but rather by the strength we show when and if we're given a second chance." When and if we're given a second chance. I believe in second, third, and fifth, and 10th chances. I think people usually deserve them. Sometimes not, for sure. But I wonder who here is perfect. How can we find some of those broken shells and still find admiration and see that they're not perfect? I wish our society would be more willing to accept who we are as human beings and for the ways that we miss the mark, and to try and give ourselves an opportunity to do better. All of our heroes in the Torah, none of them are perfect. Far from it. Far from it. Abraham lies about his wife, and she then becomes part of a harem of a king, so it saves his life. Not cool. Jacob tricks his dying father, his blind and dying father, in order to get a blessing so that he can have the oldest child's blessing, even though it really should be his twin brother Esau. Not cool. We have all of these figures, even Moses, the greatest prophet of them all. Moses is somebody who sometimes loses his cool, doesn't control his passions. And on some level, we admire his passion, and on another level, he killed the taskmaster. And it's not in self-defense because we see in the text he has to look left and right to see if anybody's around, and then he strikes the taskmaster. So all of our heroes are not idols. All of our heroes are real human beings who make mistakes. And that gives me such great relief that we can be like our ancestors and still not strive for perfection. Instead, can we appreciate the purple and the butterfly shape and the sun shape of those broken stones, broken shells? Can we do something that can see a spark in everybody, even the folks that maybe I don't want to hang out at dinner with? That's okay. I think all of us are flawed. And I think all of us have the opportunity to try to be our best selves. One of the most meaningful teachings in Torah for me, since we just completed Shavuot and marks the giving of the Torah, the word for the Torah or these tablets, they translate it often as a pact. And some of our rabbis say this pact, in the Hebrew, one could read it in the plural. And the rabbis are going to explain that when Moses brought the tablets down from Sinai and smashed them against the golden calf, right? He was so surprised to see an idol. He took the commandments that God gave us, smashed them down, went back up. God dictated a new set and brought them down the mountain. But what went into the ark was the whole set, the new set, but also the original broken pieces. Both are holy, our broken pieces and our whole selves. I kind of hope we can be more gentle with ourselves and our own broken pieces. I also wish we could be a little bit more gentle with each other's broken pieces and perhaps can find the new colors and hues that we've never taken the time to see before. We only saw broken. If standing at Sinai happens at Shavuot, which is concluding, at least within the Reform movement and in Israel, if we're going to take this idea of receiving Torah and standing again at Sinai, we also have to receive its messages and then take them with us. Just to say we observe Shavuot and it doesn't make a difference in how I'm going to move forward in my life's journey, I think we missed the point. It's supposed to be something that will transform us and help inspire us or give us a little more strength to try just a little bit more this year. We don't have to wait for Yom Kippur. Gosh, I hope we don't. We have some work to do. So here's to broken shells, folks. Here's to the spirituality of imperfection, of being tolerant of our own weakest moments and how they don't have to define us. And the same is true for the people that we can encounter. And you should really check out Rabbi Lasso. There's good stuff happening there. I don't know which, it's not a channel anymore, which service it's on, but because my wife turns it on, but you should check it out. Apple.
Amen, Rabbi. Thank you. So the words of what we're going to sing are not in your program. Sorry about that. I just change things around. I think that in my experience, we think of peace as this thing that we're yearning for, searching for. And I know that in my life journey, and I may be in yours too, that the more I embrace my own flaws and brokenness and love on those places, the more shalem, the more completeness I feel, the more peace I feel. And I wonder if that's true for you. I think that, as Rabbi Green said, we don't often embrace our brokenness and the brokenness of others. And we're all imperfect beings. And that's, I think, kind of what makes us amazing. And I have this setting of Shalom Rav. We did it a few months ago. I think that when we can kind of make our space embracing and welcoming to all of us in all of our differentness and all of our different colors, shapes, sizes, heights, abilities in all ways, the broader our tent is, the bigger our tent is, and the more beautiful and magical and complete we are. So the Hebrew text is from Shalom Rav. That's on 178. And the English text, I'm going to tell to you now. So 178 for the Hebrew text. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people. In wholeness and in love. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. If you can remember the words, try it with me. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Make for us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people, in wholeness and in love.
586. Aleinu L'Shabach, 586 at the bottom of the page. We ask you to rise as you're able.
Aleinu L'Shabach L'Adon HaKol, L'Atei Gdula L'Yotzer Breshit, Shelo Asanu Goyei Ha'aratzot, Velo Samanu Kemishpachot Ha'adama, Shelo Samchokenu Kahem, Vegoralenu Kechol Hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים
ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. Page 588. שעונות השמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. 591. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Let's be seated. No, this Shabbat, while we conclude Shavuot within the conservative and Orthodox communities, are still in the midst of Shavuot for another day, at least outside of Israel. The Reform movement follows the Israeli calendar, so our Shavuot Mount Sinai experience is concluded. We have Shabbat, but we also need to mark, I think, Memorial Day. It is something that I think for many is overlooked, and we focus on the next sale opportunity, but it's so much more than that. So we have a member of our community, Don Price, who's also the commander of the Denver Post of the Jewish War Veterans, and he's going to share a reflection and a poem with us. Thanks, Don.
So Rabbi Green asked me to say a few words about Memorial Day, the day we honor those who died while serving in the military. So I'll tell you a story, a short story, about the first of my Naval Academy classmates to be killed in the service of our country. Fred Minier was an acquaintance of mine. I didn't know him that well, but we had a few classes together. He was a small kid and had a tough first year at the academy, as did many of us. His first assignment out of the academy was a destroyer operating in the Mediterranean. He was the damage control assistant responsible for much of the auxiliary equipment on the ship. They were having a problem with the cooling intake to the main condenser, and so Fred, his chief petty officer, and his immediate supervisor, the engineer, all three qualified scuba divers, decided to dive down and inspect the intake while in port in Sicily. They also opted to leave the suction pumps running during the inspection, a dangerous approach, but not that unusual. This was around 1974, the Cold War period. Fred was probably all of 24 years old, his whole life in front of him. His chief and the engineer probably 10 years older. During the dive, his chief became disoriented, swam too close to the intake, and was sucked into and lodged against the intake screen. Fred immediately swam to his assistance, freed his chief, but in so doing became lodged against the screen himself and also lost his breathing apparatus. The engineer immediately swam to Fred's aid. However, Fred, realizing the gravity of his own situation, reached out and activated the engineer's flotation device, causing the engineer to ascend to the surface and safety. To read from the official Navy report, as a result of his heroic conduct, Ensign Minier succumbed in the condenser intake, gallantly sacrificing his life in order that his shipmates might live. His courageous and prompt actions in the face of certain death undoubtedly saved the lives of his fellow divers. I'm sure that Fred knew what would result from his actions, but he was guided by our class motto, 2 Latin words, non sibi, not for self. Fred demonstrated to all of us what this meant. This class motto, non sibi, had been proposed in 1969 by Fred himself and immediately adopted by the class. I was never tested like Fred. Many of those in the military have been. And from accounts throughout our country's history, we have been a nation of heroes, military men and women willing to sacrifice their lives for their country and their comrades. Non sibi, not for self. On this coming Memorial Day, may we remember those like Fred who gave their lives for something greater than themselves, something we sometimes take for granted, our freedom and the freedom of future generations. And may we honor them by keeping their memory alive. Rabbi Green also asked me to read the following poem by Archibald MacLeish, which was published during World War II. Its title, "The Young Dead Soldiers Do Not Speak," is also the first line of the poem. The young dead soldiers do not speak. Nevertheless, they are heard in the still houses. Who has not heard them? They have a silence that speaks for them at night, and when the clock counts. They say, "We were young, we have died, remember us." They say, "We have done what we could, but until it is finished, it is not done." They say, "We have given our lives, but until it is finished, no one can know what our lives gave." They say, "Our deaths are not ours, they are yours. They will mean what you make them." They say, "Whether our lives and our deaths were for peace and a new hope, or for nothing, we cannot say. It is you who must say this." They say, "We leave you our deaths. Give them their meaning. Give them an end to the war and a true peace. Give them a victory that ends the war and a peace afterwards. Give them their meaning. We were young," they say. "We have died. Remember us." Thank you, Rabbi Green.
If you are observing a yard site, the anniversary of one's death, or in a period of mourning, we invite you, if you choose, to rise for a moment, share their names with us, and then we'll continue with additional names from the community. Yeah, Mike.
Our son, Brian Aaron Ween.
Good, Jack. Sorry. Andy. We also remember in those first 30 days, Amy Madrigal, the niece of Cheryl Marty, a dear congregant, Tom Traeger, the husband of Barbara Traeger, Rod Price, the father of Allison Gold, Fred Ashler, the stepfather of Diane Glenn, and Sam Zell, the father of Kelly Zell. Those yard sites that we recall for this week that has passed: Victor Alkin, Leonard Bell, Abraham Burkhoff, Ralph Carl Black Jr., Suzanne Batansky, Arthur Bronstein, Jean Ellen Cohen, Molly Collector, Patrick Allen DeMoss, John Paul DeMoss II, Pauline Elkinis, Claire Feiner, Leo Graham, John Hess, Arlene Zirkin Hiltzley, Leo Kaplan, Muriel Koslov, Florence Levy, Siegfried Mandel, Elihu Modlin, Irving Pfau, Fanny Potter, Joan Powell, Joe Rasnick, Ann Miller-Richtel, Murray Ritter, Leon Schiff, Angela Brill Thaler, Leo Unger, Herman Warman, Pearl Wexler, Jack Weitzman, Brian Ween, Mildred Zirkin, and Jacob Miller. Kaddish is on 598 as we stand together, shoulder to shoulder, supporting our friends who are mourners this Shabbat. 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mivarach leolam u'me'amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrumam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemeid kudesha barichu. Le'elah min kol birachata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram v'yama v'meru amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'meru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'meru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, all who hurt, all who remember, and let us say amen. Let's be seated. We have a closing prayer on page 657, and I want to thank Don for sharing such a poignant and important reflection of memory, and we're grateful for that. And on a separate note, we will be getting back to the tent soon. I just know it. We were planning on it the last 3 weeks, and the rain, all right, we'll get there. So we are planning on being there tomorrow morning, and for Crystal, who's online, and helping to welcome other people who are with us for services online, we're grateful for your presence. And also, I just want to say, a lot of us who have been connected to the synagogue have heard about this annual campaign program, and I just have so much gratitude for all who have participated, not just because we reached the first goal and our matching gift will come through and that we get to pay off our mortgage, but so much more than that, that everybody's continued giving doesn't help us just to get by. It helps us to thrive. It helps us to be present in people's lives and try and figure out how to make a difference for ourselves and in our world. So there's so much gratitude for those who have joined us and supporting this congregation and the good that we're really trying to do. And I think that we are. And it's a big part of it is how we show up including with our own acts of tzedakah. So we're grateful and continue to be grateful.
Salam, peace will yet come to us and to everyone. Peace to us and all the world. Od yavo shalom aleinu.
Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Shabbat shalom to you. Wish your neighbors a Shabbat shalom. Come, we can go outside. We'll make a motzi, have a nash, and we'll wish each other a good Shabbos.
Nice. Oh yeah, I should leave my mic. I got new glasses. They're progressives, and it's different.
Progressives are hard.
Yeah, it's a little different.
These are my first ones.
Okay, these are my first two. I guess just picked them up after services this morning. So yeah.
They're nice,
Thanks.
but don't give up.
What? No.
Give